It's been a few days since Direct Hit came out, so I feel like I've played enough to have a solid opinion on it. As a quick recap, I thought that the previous update Red Skies was alright, bringing more good to the table than bad, which was a nice change of pace from older updates. For updates like New Power and Hot Tracks, I was pretty disappointed overall. So it begs the question, does Direct Hit follow in the footsteps of Red Skies by being alright? Well, before we take a look, I'm going to talk about my sponsor. I have a partnership with Apex Gaming, a company that makes pre-roll gaming PCs. If you're looking to upgrade, you should check them out. Link is in the description and comments. Now let's get started. Unlike Red Skies, Direct Hit seems to focus more on adding vehicles. It was teased as a fairly large update vehicle-wise, and that seems to hold up. A total of 36 new ones were added to the game. I almost said 21, but then I remembered that naval was a thing. A decent number of old models were updated as well, which is nice to see. You don't really notice until you look hard enough, but some models are pretty outdated. First, I want to talk about the positives for this update. I'm sure most of you guys can agree with this, but the sounds of this update are actually quite good for once. Usually, War Thunder sounds are pretty bad, to the point I use a sound mod whenever possible. The sounds actually seem to get worse with time, but in a shocking turn of events, the sounds are even better than what I would call acceptable. There are some sounds that are far better than others. For example, the new 50 cal sound is basically perfection. Tanks also make this new sound when moving over dirt. It sounds a bit gravelly and I like it quite a lot, like you're actually tearing up the ground a bit. The revamped sounds for aircraft are great across the board, but especially for rotary cannons and Gatling guns. That being said, there are some sound issues, but we'll talk about those later. I just hope they keep these sounds, instead of replacing them in 3 months. Now let's talk about graphics. One of the biggest positives this update relates to ultra low quality. Certain objects in game disappear when you get a certain distance away from them. On ultra low quality, this distance was lowered, giving anyone using it an advantage. After Direct Hit, that distance is now standardized across all graphics presets, leveling the playing field a bit. And although a relatively minor addition, the fact that contrails now appear is pretty cool to see. For the most part, the newly added vehicles are good, and they fill some tactical gaps. The 2S25 Sprut is probably my favorite new vehicle. I am a bit biased, because I was excited for it before the update, and light tanks are kinda my thing, but I feel it's a great addition. It fills the niche in the Soviet tech tree, and I would say it's balanced but a bit inconsistent. The new ZTZ is also a welcome addition, finally giving China some support at top tier. Not the model I was hoping for, but good nonetheless. I don't really play air, so I don't know how it performs, but it's good that Russia got the MiG-27. We finally have a counterpart to the A-7D. Now that gap has to be filled in other tech trees. I don't like the idea of smart missiles and bombs. I wish they weren't added to begin with, but now that they are in, it's only fair that everyone should get some. Now onto aspects that are either neutral or negative. While the new sounds are good, the mixing behind them is pretty awful. It almost feels like you're playing in a small bubble, and everything outside that bubble is heavily muffled, like it's underwater. Yet for some very specific sounds like 50 cals, they sound crisp regardless of the distance. I've also encountered a bug where I can't hear anything besides aircraft sounds. Restarting didn't fix the issue, but verifying the game cache did. There was also this really cool bug where no one could mark the map as a tank. Well, you could, it's just that only planes could see it. Luckily, this was fixed pretty quickly, because it was incredibly annoying. For the new maps, I've only played Breslau a couple of times. I usually like urban maps, but it seems more cluttered than usual. Also, for a lot of the roads, they have a muddy terrain modifier, so you go really slow. It's not like the roads are bombed or anything, just cobblestone and pavement. I'm sure most of you guys think I'm really happy to see the M1A1 Heavy Common in game, but I'm honestly pretty indifferent. I'm sure it's great as a backup for top tier lineups, but I would have preferred a more interesting vehicle. The balancing behind it is also a bit odd. I really don't think the absence of a CITV warrants 10.7 instead of 11.0. I mean, I never use committer sights anyway. For me, it's an M1A2 at a lower BR. This is just an anecdote, but I got a full down tier in the one game I played, and clubbed 5 terms players. I think it should be moved to 11.0. There's practically no reason not to. As for the Type 87 RCV, you already know what I think about it. It's essentially a Dardo without armor and toes. I don't think it should be facing Bulldogs and T-25s. The cannon can deal with basically anything, and it does so quickly. It could be up-tiered to 8.0 and do perfectly fine. I up-tiered it to 8.3 quite extensively, and still had a good time. I think 8.0 should be agreeable. All in all, I think Direct Hit's a pretty good update. It added some cool things without breaking a lot, which I think is pretty much all you can ask for. There are some broken vehicles that were added, but I don't think they're incredibly egregious, and should be pretty easy to fix. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.